So as most of you know, as of late, I've been making a ton of AFL videos that you guys seem to really like. Again, I mentioned this in a previous video. Every time one of these AFL videos get like 1,000 views, it really touches me in my private place better than anyone could ever do. Again, it just makes me a very happy man. And obviously, previously, I have made a ton of NBA draft videos, which also got a ton of views and touched me in ways that only my uncle has ever tried to touch me. So I figured, holy shit, there's this revolutionary idea of what if I just like combined both and, you know, whatever the ingredients were that made the Powerpuff Girls, the sugar, spice, and everything nice, and just created this massive video of my 2024 AFL mock draft. So in today's video, I'm actually going to be going over the top 10 and we'll talk about how this all goes, and if the video does well, maybe I'll make a part 2 and do like 11 or 20. Before I truly get into it though, I would just like to say that at the time of making this video, there is still one round of footy left. So I don't expect the ladder to really change that much. Like one team might get changed or some shit, and look, if it does, please don't scream at me in the comments. Like, please don't say, oh, Gold Coast have pick 5, not St Kilda, you fucking fat bitch. But yeah, obviously maybe one thing might have changed or something like that. Apologies if it has. We're going to be starting with a team though who I can guarantee you will have the first overall pick unless North get blown out by like 280 points next week. And that happens to be the Richmond Football Club. And I would say nearly everyone and their dad has a different person going at pick 1. In this year's draft, it is so wide open. Anything can change absolutely every week. Like the guy I've got going at pick 7 could be pick 1 next week. That's legitimately how crazy it is. But with a ton of research, I've formulated who I think is going to be pick 1. It was out of about 2 to 3 players, but I've actually decided to go with Jagger Smith, who is an incredibly good inside midfielder who is 181 centimeters. He played for Oakley in the under-18s competition, also trained with Richmond in the off-season, and now plays for Richmond in the last 3 games or so in their VFL team. Again, this guy genuinely plays a lot like Zach Butters and Nick Dacos. He's got that absolute class on the inside. But also, I think where he truly shines best is the same as those 2 previously mentioned guys, is when you've got a real big inside midfielder feeding it out to him, he can then go to work and kind of be a bit more like an outside midfielder as well, if that makes sense. And he's got an incredible boot on him. He's got an incredible knack of finding the footy. Again, I would say is definitely a bit too skinny right now, but we know Butters and Dacos have been pretty skinny players throughout their whole career. I'd still say Smith needs to put on about 5 to 10 kilos though. His goal kicking is not what some of the other players are, but if you're looking for a genuine inside beast who is going to rack up 40 disposals a game, this guy can absolutely do it. And I think he would be a great fit alongside Tim Taranto, who's that really big inside bull. He can obviously go and feed it out to Jagger Smith, and then I think he can go and work his magic. So, again, a lot of people have this guy going to pick 1. I do agree with them. I think his ties to Richmond obviously help him as well. He's a massive Richmond fan from what I've heard. Really training with them and playing in their VFL now. Richmond have the best insight out of everyone to really know what this guy is truly going to be like in the AFL. And I think you can really see the signs are he's going to be an absolute star. If that fly fucking flies in my video one more time, bro, I'm actually going to slap him in the face with my cock. With the 2nd overall pick, we have North.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Melbourne. And I've got them actually selecting Finn O'Sullivan out of Oakley as well. The 182 centimeter inside midfielder, previously played for Richmond, where he played this kind of like high half forward role. Did really well. I mean, he got injured in the first half where I think he only had like 3 touches, and the second half he had like 10 touches, 2 goals. Looked really silky. A lot of people compare him to Connor Rosie, but the way when I actually watch him, he kind of plays a lot like prime Shane Edwards and a bit of Scott Pendlebury as well. Just seems like he has so much time, absolutely great decision making, and I think he would be a great fit for North. Again, he's arguably the first overall pick, except he's had a ton of injuries, has missed months and months of footy due to those injuries, and you can really tell he has struggled to come back from them. But as the weeks are going on, again, we saw what he was able to do for Richmond in that second half. This guy looks like an absolute star, and I think can really add to North Melbourne, who have a really good group of inside midfielders, but they're obviously looking to float these guys through the forward line, do some rotating, all this type of stuff like all the good teams are wanting to do. And O'Sullivan can definitely play all that midfield, but as I said, he can also go forward and have an impact on the scoreboard. And I think that's what North Melbourne are looking for, a versatile midfield who can go forward if they really need him to, can rotate in the midfield, do all that good stuff. He'd be a perfect fit for North Melbourne. With the third overall pick, I have the West Coast Eagles selecting Levi Ashcroft and then getting matched by the Brisbane Lions. Obviously, Levi Ashcroft is the son of Marcus Ashcroft and the brother of Will. He is arguably the best player in the draft. Again, I think he's ranked number 1 on Cal Toomey's mock. He's a 179 centimeter inside midfielder who plays for Sandringham. Absolute bull who's been racking up like 40 disposal games every week. It grinds my gears to the core that my team cannot have him just because Brisbane's fucking legend is good at braiding. That hurts my feelings. But obviously there's going to be an elite pickup by Brisbane. He's great at getting the ball, massive ball winner. Again, to go into that midfield of Neil, Dunkley, Ashcroft already, got McCluggage floating through there too, Zach Bailey, a ton of all these other players. Adding another Ashcroft to that, who is basically the pick number 1, would put hair on any Brisbane Lions fans' balls, because it's definitely going to be a great selection. And there's really not much to talk about with this one, because I think everyone knows that Brisbane, you know, they just keep getting these elite young players in through the draft every year just because, I don't know, their former legends had good foreplay or something. I don't know how you create a baby that becomes an AFL player. So obviously West Coast have the 4th overall pick now, where I've got them selecting Josh Smiley. Again, Smiley was pick number 1 for a long time. It was said that Richmond and North Melbourne really liked him. If LDU was going to leave North, which it doesn't look like that's going to happen, they were going to take Smiley. So I think getting Smiley at pick 4 for West Coast is really good. He's a 194 centimeter inside midfielder for the Eastern Rangers. Plays kind of like Bont and Cripps. Had a really, really good under 18s competition. Unfortunately, just didn't really play that well for Vic Metro. I think he only had like 19 disposals per game or something. But when you have to battle it out with Jagger Smith and I think all of these other players to get the disposal, it can be a bit tricky, especially for a guy who's 194 centimeters, who reports are saying might have grown to 196 to 197. I don't know if that is true, but if it is, he would be by far, I think, the biggest inside midfielder in the competition, which is absolutely crazy. Having him as your main inside midfielder to dish it out to players like Tim Kelly and Harley Reid is insane. I mean, having a duo of Harley Reid and Josh Smiley long term is very, very attractive on the field. And I think both of those guys would just work really, really well together. And the good thing about him is too, I think as Smiley gets his forward craft up, you can eventually rotate both of those guys through the forward line if you want to as well. Imagine if they can build up that midfield by adding Jack Graham, Liam Baker, like it is said to, and having Smiley and Reid both resting down forward. Holy fuck, that is disgustingly cool. With the 5th overall pick, we have the Adelaide Crows, who I have them, of course, taking Sid Draper. Again, some people would argue, is Sid Draper worth pick 5? Some might have him as like pick 9. But then there are some who say just because he plays in Adelaide, that means his draft stock has just genuinely gone down. And in reality, he's probably like the 3rd or 4th best player in this class. And look, I don't think Adelaide would care. If they can get a 182 centimeter beast inside midfielder who has a ton of senior experience into their team, who's a homegrown local, I think they would be absolutely ecstatic over that fact. Again, their midfield is going through a slight turnover. Crouch is not the man he used to be. Sloan obviously retired. Laird has definitely had, I think, a drop-off from previous years. And Jordan Dawson, for the first half of the year, really struggled in that inside. Again, they've had to roll a ton of guys through there like Rashali and Rankin, who they might not have wanted to. I think they'll be definitely going hard to try and add a inside midfielder or two in this draft and free agency. And I think going after a dude like Sid Draper, who you know is a homegrown talent, who is going to be great for you and absolutely provide his role, is just something you can't look past. Again, is he the 9th best player in the draft? Is he the 3rd best player in the draft? Everyone can argue, but I don't think we can all deny the fact that with the 5th overall pick, if Adelaide can get like a homegrown guy who can be a massive fit to them, he's a massive positional need right now, there is no way they are going to deny this. Again, we know in free agency, they've been looking at midfielders like Elliot Yeo. Rumor has it they were looking at Patrick Dangerfield at one stage, which is crazy to think. I'm assuming they're going to add someone. They might come in late for the Jack Graham play, but even though we think he's probably a lock to West Coast right now, they might come for someone. But the reality is, I know they will draft an inside midfielder, and I think they're going to go with the homegrown boy, and I think that's going to be Sid Draper. Now, with the 6th overall pick, here's where we get a little bit complicated. We have the Gold Coast Suns. There is a massive chance this pick goes to Richmond, a part of the Rioli trade, especially with how Rioli's been playing as of late. Richmond are going to go hard for this pick. But either way, I think both teams would take the same guy here, and that's the best available who would fit both teams for sure. And that is Harvey Langford, the 190 centimeter inside midfielder. Fuck you. Harvey Langford is a player who has risen up so much in the last couple of weeks. Again, was ranked like 14 or 15th, I think, 2 months ago. Is now literally ranked like, I think, 3rd or 4th on Cal Toomey's mock draft. Again, I don't know if he will go that high just because of the teams that are selecting right now and whatnot. But this guy is not only a really good inside midfielder, but a guy who I really like playing down forward. I think this guy can be the prototypical 190 centimeter, big and athletic forward who really plays like a high half forward, moves up from that line and can obviously help out as an extra midfielder. I think Richmond desperately need that. They need some goal kickers and some bodies down there. Gold Coast as well really couldn't mind. In the last couple of weeks, they've moved Mac Andrew up forward, dropped Lukosius to the VFL. They've had Andrew, Walter and King all up forward, but still just feel like they need another goal kicker in that area. And I think Harvey Langford can not only be that guy, but he adds an extra midfield option to rotate through with, you know, Anderson if you want to push him down. If Matt Rouse to the bench, obviously you can have Langford in there. If Tuke Miller even goes and plays some wing, which we know he's done as well, you can have Harvey Langford in there too. He's not only best available, but he fits the Gold Coast Suns perfectly. He fits the Tigers perfectly if they get this pick, an inside midfielder who can also go play up forward. It's kind of the dream reality for both teams if a guy like Harvey Langford can fall down to this pick. Will he? I'm not too sure. I still think that West Coast, will have Smiley over him, but they could very well go with Harvey Langford at the 4th overall pick, and maybe Smiley falls down to the 6th overall pick, and that's where things get interesting. But for this draft, I do have Harvey Langford going at pick number 6. Now at pick 7, we have Sam Lela to the St Kilda Football Club. Again, the Saints are going to be looking for another midfielder or two desperately. I think Lela is the best available right now. He's a guy that some people believe North Melbourne really like at pick 2. So he'll be in contention to go high as well. He's also a guy who could fall down to like pick 10. But I think this is the sweet spot for him and St Kilda. They desperately need an inside midfielder. He's another guy who can go up forward and be another forward option if they really need. He's not your main inside midfielder option that you're probably going to be wanting. But he's a guy who will come in and he'd be a good second or third option to Jack Steele. He'd also be a good guy that if you want to push him down forward and have another half forward option with Filippo, Wilson, Max King, all these options that they've got down there, he would be another really, really good addition. Again, he is 187 centimeter midfielder. Some people have even said he would be a cool player to push down back in the AFL. I don't think anyone is probably going to do that, especially if he gets taken by St Kilda here. I would have a big feeling he will probably play 90% of his time in the midfield because they are desperate for that. But just knowing you have that option to be able to push this guy forward is something that a lot of Saints fans are going to like. Now, with the 8th overall pick, we have Melbourne, and I've actually got them selecting Harvey Armstrong, the 195 centimeter, extremely athletic key forward from Sandringham. This guy is absolutely everything that Melbourne need right now. Again, there is talks they're going to be changing up their game plan next year, bringing in some more offensive minds. They've obviously tried to do that with McQualter. Seems like they need to add another extra guy or two. But in saying all that, you need players to kick to. And I'm not that big of a fan of Harrison Petty. I know they've got him long term. They can always push him down back now. I really like Van Ruin as a high half forward option, but I still feel like they need that main key forward. And I think Harvey Armstrong is that guy. If you can have Armstrong and Van Ruin as your future key forwards for the next 10 to 15 years, that is going to be a beautiful sight for Melbourne fans. It just gives them options to kick to. And they're going to continue to add to this forward line. They obviously added Jack Billings last year, who didn't necessarily work. But if you've got Armstrong and Van Ruin, and then you've got Pickett, roving from him, you were going to have Neil Bullen. He's requested a trade, but maybe with that pick you get back for him, you can take a small forward that can add to this team as well. Again, over the next years, it's unfortunately going to be a very young forward line for them. And I say unfortunately because they're probably going to be in a contending spot for the next couple. But in reality, you have to do this, and they should have done it a couple years ago. It is the right time now. They have to add a key forward here, I think. And Harry Armstrong is the best one, I believe. The most athletic, I think, as well. And he would be a genuine great option, a great threat to have down there with Jacob Van Ruin. So I'd be shocked if they didn't take a key forward with this pick. I also would be shocked if they didn't, because they've been very hesitant in years gone past to do it. They kind of missed their window. They should have done it a couple years ago. They kind of tried to do it with Jackson. He, unfortunately for them, requested a trade. But yeah, this just makes a ton of sense for them. With the 9th overall pick, I have the biggest shock probably of this one to the Essendon Football Club. I've got them selecting another key forward, and that's actually Job Shanahan, the 194 centimeter, currently ranked number 21 at the time of making this video, but I expect to dramatically go up. This guy recently just came off kicking 5 goals in Essendon's VFL. As an 18-year-old against full grown-ass men is an extremely hard thing to do. And we know the Bombers are really searching for another key forward. They brought in Nate Caddy, who I think in this league will be a very high half forward. Again, he was drafted as a high half forward / wing, but he's obviously had to play like their main inside full forward because Peter Wright just hasn't been AFL level, unfortunately, for them this year. So I still think they're looking for that kind of stay-at-home key forward. Is Job Shanahan that guy? I'm fully not sure. No one really knows. But I think it's a big chance to be able to take that risk and be like, we've got this dude who's ranked 21 who's now jumped up to like 13. He's played for our VFL. We've got to watch him play. He's just kicked 5 goals for us against grown-ass men. Let's bring him into the team, have him as our full forward, have Nate Caddy as our high half forward. We've got these two really inexperienced but youthful key forwards now to add with Jones, who has played a lot of wing but will continue to float down forward. You've also got Cox, who has had a lot of wing time this year, but he floats down forward. And now 2 meter Peter, in the VFL. If he can get back up to track next season off the injuries, hopefully get his footy back under him. If you could get a prime 2-meter Peter, like the 40 goal kicking one, with these two young key forwards, geez, that'd be a fantastic side for Essendon. It gives really more depth to their forward line. And I know one of the big issues is how they kick it into the forward line, but you've got options there now. And I think a guy like, you know, Shanahan, who's really climbed up this draft board now and is playing some absolute elite footy. If you see him there as Essendon, you should probably take him, because he is going to get better and better every single game and has been like the major flyer over the last couple weeks. So I expect Essendon will fully have a look at this guy, and he kind of just really fits their team. And with the 10th overall pick, I've got the Fremantle Football Club. Again, there is a big chance that this pick goes to Richmond, a part of the Bolton trade and all of that type of stuff. I think it will be a Richmond pick, but for the sake of this video, we'll talk about how it builds positives to both teams. I actually have them selecting Luke Traynor, the 194 centimeter key defender from Sandringham. He is the best intercept defender in this whole entire draft. Again, Fremantle have really been trying to find that extra key defender, especially in the last couple weeks when Alex Pearce unfortunately went down with an injury. That is going to keep him out for the rest of the season. Again, they are currently out of the 8 at the time of making this video, I believe, which is insane to think, especially with how good they've been. But they've just had the wrong players get injured. Their main key defender getting hurt has meant that, you know, Liam Ryan has kind of had to play this more key defender kind of role instead of a 7th man, an interceptor who does the kickouts. It hasn't been pretty. It hasn't been great. He's been playing out of that position. You can tell they are looking for another key defender. And with Alex Pearce being a little bit older now and already having a really bad injury past and history, drafting a key defender here, to me, makes the most amount of sense, and you can get the best interceptor. And if we're looking at a Richmond point of view, this makes a ton of sense as well. I think they need potentially another key defender. You know, Tyler Young didn't really have a good year, and then he went down with an ACL. Ben Miller had a really good first 3 quarters of the year. The last quarter, he's looked fucking slower than me after I've invested fucking 20 kilos of KFC into my gut. And Josh Gibcus has done his ACL. He was out for the whole year. The year before that, he did massive hamstring injuries, which kept him out for the year. He had to fly to Qatar to just get his hamstrings back up to scratch. He's missed 2 full years of AFL. And even though I pray and I hope for him, touch wood, that he can get back, who really knows at this rate? And then Noah Bolter has had to play as their full forward because Tom Lynch is always injured. And even if Tom Lynch does stay healthy, I kind of feel like you need Noah Bolter down there just to take pressure off him for now, while you probably draft a key forward and let him develop for a couple years. So this pick also makes a ton of sense for Richmond. Luke Traynor, whether Gibcus comes back from his injury, let's just say he does, him and Gibcus together and probably Ben Miller still makes a ton of sense, especially with Bolter up forward. And if unfortunately he can't get back and Ben Miller still plays some stinker footy, you've finally got a really good young key forward down there who you can really look up to and know you've got an invested future in. So this works well for both teams. But of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment your thoughts and opinions down below of my official 2024 AFL mock draft. I'd very much like to know your thoughts and opinions down below. Subscribe to my gaming channel and my IRL/vlogging channel and this channel for all latest sports content and news. But yeah, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.